there was a producer on a film that there had been allegations against, and I went and I talked to a studio, and it's very, very important to me that I practice what I preach.
Long before both the Me Too and Time's Up movement, Jessica Chastain was out front speaking up for both gender and racial equality in Hollywood. She's been at it for years and yet somehow has managed to find the time to get nominated for 2 Oscars for The Help and Zero Dark 30, rescue Matt Damon in The Martian, and make Matthew McConaughey ugly cry in Interstellar. And now she's playing Molly's Game. From writer-director Aaron Sorkin, who famously made The West Wing, it is the true life story of an Olympic skier turned high-stakes poker queen. Jessica Chastain, it's lovely to meet you.
Nice to meet you. Thank you very much.
So before we talk about Molly's Game, I did just want to ask you about your time at Juilliard, right? So I understand that when you auditioned for Juilliard, there was a bit of a process, and you performed Juliet from Romeo and Juliet, and the words you've used to describe it are, you made a bold, creative choice.
Yeah.
What did you do that left the judges so stunned?
Well, I did the piece from Juliet, and it's basically it's right after she's been married to Romeo, and she's saying like, take the sun and make the sun set so the moon will rise, because once the moon's here, Romeo will arrive at my window, and basically she'll have sex and she'll be a woman. And, you know, in the past I had seen it performed in ways that were very proper and Shakespearean, and I thought, okay, well, what if actually I do it as a 14-year-old girl that's very anxious to become a woman, and so I was thrashing around all over the ground, and he looked at me, and I was like sitting on the ground, and then I like looked up at them, and then he goes, "Did you have fun, Jessica?" And I said, "Yes," and he says, "Okay, thank you so much." And I was like, okay. I realized it was either really good or really bad.
Donnie Silverman, my brilliant find. He lost
Marty,
$6 million
stop.
on my table.
Stop.
Moved to Florida, got a job as a substitute teacher, then hanged himself.
Oh, and
in
that's
his shower.
your fault. That's
Donnie
not your
Silverman's
fault.
dead. Harlan Eustace is in jail in Nevada, wishing he was, but that's not why I'm saying no.
You're not saying no.
With Molly's Game, it's not the first time you've played a real person, obviously, but where do you draw the line between when you want to do the real person and when you want to create something for yourself, something that you can get inside the skin of?
That's an interesting question. I mean, I think even when I play a fictional character, I always base a character that I'm playing off of something else. Sometimes it's reality television characters.
Okay, no, I need to know. Which reality TV characters can we see in your...
A lot of, like, A Most Violent Year was a lot. Anna Morales was based on, I think, the Housewives of New Jersey.
Oh yeah, I can see that.
Yeah.
The big coat, the big hair, the big eyes.
Yeah, but also a lot of the mannerisms kind of came from that.
Are you delusional?
You're gonna protect yourself with this? You know who uses guns like these? Whores!
And so everything I'm working on, I usually have, what am I basing this character off of? So I know I'm not going to play myself over and over again.
Is it true that you do the thing where you go through a script and every time a character says something about themselves, you write it down, and every time somebody says something about that character, you write it down?
Yeah, in 2 separate lists.
Why are they separate?
Well, I like complexity in a character. I like opposites. Like a character like Celia Foote.
I'm Celia Ray Foote. You scared the daylights out of me.
She's so sweet and she's so vulnerable, and then she's really steely. Like, she's talking to Minnie about, you know, you grab a frying pan and you hit him in the head. Like, she's really strong at the same time.
And I tell him go straight to hell.
You can't, like, then you can't say, oh, she's just a sweetie pie, or she's steely, you know, in her resolve. And I think when you make those 2 lists, then you can also find out, well, what are the opposites? Like, maybe who I'm playing feels one way about herself that the people around her, that they don't see that represented.
Great.
We're having an incredible moment in the entertainment industry where sexual harassment and misogyny is being exposed. It's being talked about in a way that it never has been before. I'm wondering, when you make choices about who you choose to work with and projects you choose to engage in, how much of it is a consideration for you when allegations come up for various different people? When you see stories in the news, you're like, well, that's it, we're never working with that person. Is there a philosophy, I guess, behind how you're making choices now?
I've always made choices in all the work that I've done to make sure that on any film set that I'm working with people where there isn't a question about whether or not abuse has taken place. You know, some point recently, I was unaware that there was a producer on a film that there had been allegations against, and I went and I talked to a studio, and it's very, very important to me that I practice what I preach, and my actions follow my words.
So with that being said, your next film is, well, one of the next films you're working on is the new X-Men movie, and Bryan Singer is still listed as an executive producer. There's been pretty ample criticism against him. Does that mean he's just there in name only?
I think some interesting information is going to come out soon.
Okay.
Where that may, I mean, I think we'll see. Like when I came onto that film, in no way I have never met Bryan Singer.
Yeah, right.
I've never seen him on set. I mean, we'll see.
Okay. All right. Let's come back to one of your next projects you're doing with Octavia Spencer, where you guys have gone in together and your salaries will be tied, is my understanding of it. She's been telling this beautiful story about how you guys had a conversation about how women of colour earn so much less than white women.
I love that woman because she's walking the walk and she's actually talking the talk. She said, Octavia, we're going to get you paid.
What's your recollection of that conversation? How did that conversation even come up?
I think women sometimes feel shame about to admit like what your salary is.
Yeah.
And I think there's also a misperception. You know, when people see Hollywood actors and actresses, they hear these stories about so-and-so made this much money, and then they assume everyone in Hollywood makes that. And when Octavia and I was having a conversation, I was really floored by what her quote had been for so long, especially with the history that she'd had in the industry. And I just realized if we tied our salaries together as a favored nations deal, then it would bring up her quote. And then each film, that would be her new quote. It was a very easy thing to do. I think it's something that men should, you know, it would be wonderful if men started doing that, men that believed in wage equality with their female co-stars. I will say this was not a story that I intended to be out in the media. And in fact, after Octavia,
It did feel like a thing that wasn't meant to go public when she said it.
Yeah, I mean, she's so sweet, and I love her so much. I just want to make sure that too much of the focus isn't on me, and it should be on
the systemic problem.
Exactly.
Yeah,
like
yeah,
she's
totally
been underpaid for a long time. Instead of it being like, Jessica did this, let's go back and say, if I truly care about eliminating this discrimination, what can I do to change that? And tying your salary, saying like, all right, we both do the same work, we should have equal salary in this. I think that's a great place to start.
Jessica Chastain, thank you so much for your time. It was really lovely talking to you, and congratulations on the movie.
Thank you so much.